We have 3 really great teams. I want all of them to win. But only one can show us up at MSI. Only one can show that EU is better than NA. I have to go with G2. Let's go G2, let's go.
G2 Furia!
You know what to do with this. Spam this static to help Fnatic.
Fnatic! Fnatic! So we all know
Who's gonna win it all on Sunday? Let's go G2!
G2, and we're G2 Army.
We are G2.
Go, go, let's go, Fnatic.
Let's go G2!
Fnatic. Fnatic.
Let's go G2.
Let's go Fnatic.
This one goes for Hylissang. Fnatic. Fnatic.
Let's go G2.
Let's go Fnatic.
Let's go G2! Let's go G2!
Fnatic! Fnatic! Fnatic!
G2 Esports. Everyone else gets clapped.
Fnatic are the kings of the West, and they will represent in the World Final!
I feel sad in the middle, got told it hurts a little.
Fnatic topple G2 and are your Spring Split champions!
Down that road I've been running all my life, now I'm sudden.
Only FLICKR is left alive to look as his team crumbles.
RNG are done! All 3 European teams make it to the knockout stage! Fnatic eliminate RNG! Let's see whether or not this will find out! PERKZ blows up RNG!
We're taking shape.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like, and it comes from Europe! A world record! G2 Esports 3-0 will win MSI 2019!
You and me are not so crazy.
Origin are crumbling to G2! Europe yields to its champion, G2 Esports!
They take it! G2 are your champions!
Taking shape. We're taking shape.
Wunder's in the pit with 3 members of Origin, but Wunder has already got the kill on Destiny. Upset, no flash, no way out of this. Caps jumps forward, and G2 have found the fight in the river that they were looking for.
You and me are not so crazy.
He's got the shot down, and now Destiny's getting chased off towards the bottom side. Xerxes opens up with a haymaker teleport coming in for the win, as G2 looks like close this one out.
Chasing, we're chasing, we're taking shape.
Oh, the emote! I'm sorry, if you're tired of me getting excited about emotes, I get it. That's a double kill coming through for Selfmade. Gonna get one more over to a triple for the Gragas. He's gonna look for a little bit more, and that's going to be a quadra for the Gragas.
It has been a long, exciting, and interesting journey, but the day is finally upon us. Get ready, everybody. Rookies and veterans, villains and heroes. The LEC 2020 Spring Finals start right now.
We're taking shape.
Welcome everyone to the day we have all been waiting for, as G2 and Fnatic are going to battle it out for the LEC Spring title in just under an hour. I'm super stoked and I can't wait to see what they do. My name's Shox and I'm joined here by Frosk and by Yamato for today.
Death, taxes, and G2 versus Fnatic. I think Medic said it best. We have never had a final without one of these teams. And I know that we throw around a lot of big words like legacy, dynasty, king, but the fact of the matter is that G2 and Fnatic are not kings of Europe. They are gods of Europe.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, I'm excited because honestly, you know, it's always about, you know, the story. We've been talking about how G2 and Fnatic, how they shaped their entire spring split for this finals. This is the finals we expected and the final we all deserve. I am super, super hyped.
Absolutely. A small note, I just want to thank everyone who's been watching in this from home setup for the past few weeks, and especially the people and our fans out of Hungary. We were supposed to be in Budapest at this point in time, but we hope that we can still give you a fantastic show. And I just want to thank you especially for all your support that you've been sending into us to keep us going and to make this show for you. But I got to tell you, it isn't difficult. It is a pleasure to make this show for all of you. So let's get into it. Let's get into the stories of these two teams, because it's been such an incredible, crazy ride, this spring split altogether. This is now a new chapter in EU's greatest rivalry so far, G2 versus Fnatic. Now, first, feast your eyes on this. This is the amount of titles that these teams have gathered over the past few years. That is just mesmerizing.
Yeah, and it looks a little bit skewed if you kind of look at recency bias. Since I've joined the LEC, I've really only known the G2 dominance. You know, I wasn't here for the rise of Fnatic, but it really has been a big back and forth, blow for blow. But I checked into the numbers and I did discover something, that Fnatic have actually never beaten G2 in a best of 5 without caps. So they had their hero, they pulled it back. You can see that in spring and summer of 2018, but since losing him, they've to really take down their primary villains and rivals in G2. So today, Rekkles has a chance to not only slay the villain of G2, but to slay the hero or former hero of Fnatic.
I think you touched on the key point there, is that, you know, ever since G2 joined, which was spring 16, when they had that, you know, rookie season for PERKZ and they blew out. Before that, Fnatic, where was the competition? And now there's this big rivalry. You know, if we look at only the competition that has happened after G2 has entered the scene, it's been 6-2 in terms of titles.
And I really want to say this again. I know I said it before, every single time G2 and Fnatic clash, if you're brand new to the LEC, if you only tune in during finals, the only thing you need to take away is that we have the best rivalry in League of Legends. This is not just the best rivalry in Europe. You look at LPL, RNG versus EDG, that one's dead. You look over at LCS, TSM versus CLG, they're not in the finals. You look at Korea, LCK, it's SKT or T1 now versus KT, that doesn't matter. G2 versus Fnatic is the epitome of rivalries in League of Legends.
Yeah, fantastic. And people say, well, isn't it boring? It's always the same two teams. I think those people are crazy, because as we saw it in the opening video, you know that this isn't just because they perform here. These are two teams that have consistently been slaying it internationally as well. Worlds Finals, MSI victory. So you know when they play each other, you're going to see the best League of Legends and some of the best plays that you will see worldwide. And that's why we're so hyped, and we're never getting tired of this at all. There you go.
They print championships. There's something in the DNA of these teams.
That it is. Okay, so we've sung their praises enough, right? Let's get into how they actually
let's tear them down.
Let's tear them down. So yesterday, MAD versus G2 Esports. It was the elimination game, the semi-final after G2 clawed back out of the lower bracket. And the question was, if they beat MAD, how convincing is it? And what do we think?
I think definitely G2 has bounced back in a beautiful way ever since that Origin series. We've seen like this growth of Caps becoming a real AD carry, so to speak, showing up with the Vayne and the Kalista. I think in general, I felt like Fnatic showed us the recipe as to how you're supposed to beat Mad Lions, and I felt like G2 applied that in a fine way, and the series didn't look like G2 ever lost control.
Yeah, and you can see that in their stats as well. I had an inkling that Mikyx's jungle proximity would have fallen off because he was kind of stuck on Yuumi duty. He wasn't roaming around, but I checked into the numbers and he has one of the highest jungle proximities we've ever seen, and it just goes to a testament of the sheer camp that Jankos gave that bot lane for Caps and Mikyx during these series. So if Fnatic kind of printed off that blueprint, the stats show that G2 are a very heavy bot lane focused team as far as playoffs are concerned.
Well, then talk to me about the Caps conundrum. He picked up the MVP, the Kia player of the series, again. He also did last week after the games versus OG. So where do we land now on his skill in the bot lane and how he's played these playoffs?
I think Caps is good and is improving. I think the key thing about Caps is that his lowest lows are such moments that really etch themselves into your memory. Like the whole Spring Split was all about Caps dying, I don't know how many times, to Misfits against that Rakan playing Aphelios, and now the best of 5 against Mad Lions. And I think it's easy to forget all the good things he did. The Talia performances, the Senna performances, and on top of that, you know, the good performances in playoffs now as well.
It goes back to that mentality of like, Fnatic have never beaten G2 in a best of 5 without Caps, and technically they could have Caps playing on their side today, despite the fact that he's on the other team. Like those are the hit and miss performances that you can get from him.
I mean, I guess that's true. We'll see how it is today. Finally, I do want to say goodbye to the Mad Lions. They are out, but they fought so valiantly. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that they came into the playoffs and just a split in general with an aggressive style, willing to take the fight to the top teams. And that is what is the most awesome about their run, I think.
I think rookie teams always talk about, you know, the coaches speak about it, the 1-year plan, how we want to grow and improve. And Mad Lions getting 3rd place already now. Usually the plan is get to the World Championship, and this is the story of most rookie teams, but they don't show up this big in Spring Split. It's an amazing start. I think they can only grow, and I think the ceiling hasn't been reached yet for Mad Lions, because I think the way they approach the game is the right way. They're trying to test their limits and push their limits all the time.
And on top of that, they put a lighter under the butts of some of the other teams, right? If you're a Rogue and you're an Origin and you see, oh, well, these guys who just play and go hard in the paint from minute 1 are getting results. What does that mean for us if they're snagging away our 3rd places and our 2nd places going forward?
I think it means that you need to step up if you're Rogue and Origin, because Mad Lions are no longer just the rookie team. They're actual contenders, and that's the title that Origin and Rogue are supposed to have.
Indeed. Now, that's it for the LEC. We have our 2 teams in the final across the globe. Of course, in the other leagues, the action is also kicking off. They are in their playoffs or building up to the final. So let's take a look across the globe and see what the world's opponents look like after last year. Last time we saw the LPL, of course, FPX world champion the year before, IG, and over in the LPL, they're still reigning supreme. Number 1 and 2 out of the regular season, and high hopes for them going into the playoffs.
Yeah, if you kind of peek into what's happening, it's your Invictus game, it's your FPXs, all the teams that Europe already knows that they should be afraid of. But underneath kind of those big 2 names are the Fnatics and the G2s of the LPL. That would be your EDG and your RNGs, and these teams are actually getting back into form. And then the Mad Lions of the LPL would be a team like eStar, this brand, fresh new faces, and they're starting to take some names. So it's not just a 2-horse race, it is actually a very top-heavy stacked league with about 6 to 7 teams that are true contenders for a title.
I think the only name that I would add to that box is Top Esports with the acquisition of Jackie Love. This was something that everyone speculated for a very long time what's going to happen, and now Knight, regarded for some as the best mid laner. Now I think Top Esports definitely could make a run for it and shake things up in this bracket.
And I can't believe I even forgot the origin of the LPL would be a team like JDG, this team that plays a pretty straightforward style. They're a bit roam heavy, but they are always so close to victory, but yet just slips away from them at the final hurdle. They're also trying to get their shit together and make a run for the LPL title.
Okay, well, we'll see. Their playoffs start on the 22nd of April. Over in the LCK, as you know, their system is that according to your seeding after the regular season, you get seeded into a gauntlet-style bracket. The final boss there is Gen G. SKT is in the 2nd round, and Dragon X was in the 1st round, and we just saw that Damwon beat KT, so we'll be going up against Dragon X.
The season has been super close. Gen G got that 1st place position through, you know, win-loss ratios because they play best of 3s, and it's absolutely crazy to think now that Damwon need to beat Dragon X, and now after that they need to beat T1, and then they have to beat Gen G. It's absolutely nuts because the gauntlet system is just perfect because, as you mentioned, these are 3 bosses that you need to get through, and the playoffs are going to look super exciting because we don't know how these top teams are going to match up. T1 took the number from Gen G, DRX took a game from T1. It's been all over the place and it's hard to predict.
Yeah, it has been. It's one of the closest splits of the LCK we have seen so far, which will hopefully make for very exciting playoffs. Finally, let's take a look at the LCS. First up, there's so many of our EU brethren over there, and they've gone over there with varying success, but I think this is a good year for the exports. Look at that, all in playoffs, and a lot of them in the finals as well.
And we're also missing a couple of LEC veterans on this graphic. I was told that we didn't have enough space to fit everyone onto that, so I see that the LEC is not only carrying Europe, but also carrying the LCS, true to tale.
It's very nice. I'm excited for FlyQuest. You know, they had the story of growth. Of course, my boy Jizuke lost to FlyQuest yesterday, but it seems like the reunion of Power of Evil and Ignar is definitely working. The last time we saw them play together, they took SKT to 5 games, and now they're looking to beat Cloud9, but it looks super tough because Cloud9 looks pristine over in the NALCS.
Yeah, they look so absolutely dominating Cloud9. It would be their first title since 2014, I believe. So that's crazy. It'll all kick off at 10 p.m. tonight after hopefully our matches have just concluded, because I'm really hoping we get 5 games today. But good luck to all of the teams playing later. Here in the LEC, however, we are at the end of a fantastic split, and it gave us tons of great moments. So let's take a look at those. 2019 was such a successful opening season for the LEC that we figured we'd ruin it by making a sequel that has no chance of living up to the hype of the first one. So get ready for the post-Worlds G2's tragedy arc, the Rogue from Rags to Riches storyline, and many more significantly worse versions of Vedius.
Larssen has to run away now. Big crit. Forbidden jumping forward. Larssen jumps.
Nemesis is being eaten away by the cannon barrage. He stays alive long enough. This is going down. Gillies getting inside the pit. He steals it! Gillies steals away the Baron!
And Vitality should get this, but Trick is going in. They try to it gets it away! No way should you do that! SK are unable to find it, and now the fight really begins as Dada gets into the middle of them. And look at the damage! It's over the wall, the hook and land on a Forgiven Kingdom play League of Legends!
The thing about Schalke is it's a lot of names that I was excited to see, but it's an absolute mess. Forgiven is not the man that he once was.
Now you're back in mid lane. What's made this decision happen?
We are mostly just experimenting.
I like Swag. Yes! Gage. Ooh, now we see the chase coming in from Origin.
Oh, whoa! That burst comes from us!
But he can play so aggressive!
He can go for 2! He can go for 2!
Oh, Shadow does not want this fight! You have to get him low enough to execute him. When he loses.
He's trying to outplay their opponent.
That's it. From 10 to 20. Death Sentence won't find a target. It may not be needed. The ultimate comes up by some time. Mikyx with a help. Are you kidding me? That is all of Fnatic.
On the way in. Still want to fight, man. Come up for the dive. He's going to dunk the Soraka. Combo! Fearlessly diving in. KRZ! Looking to style on it. They're going to try to pull him back into the fountain. They want to finish this with a suplex back. He's dunking him down. Rekkles now flashing back instantly, but it's a beautiful ult from Nemesis. Turns. It's so clean. It's Selfmade and Nemesis versus the world. They're obliterating everyone. Don't have time. Fight top lane.
Yeah, down that flashing in. Look at where the power converts.
Misfits took down the undefeated, defending LEC champions G2.
5 seconds for the kill.
1, 2, 3, 4. They got it. He gets it. Pentakill. Follow KRZ. There are so many spears. Kaiser and KRZ are doing so much work.
Finn with the world end. Dream's trying to jump in, but Finn is in the back line. Inax almost down. That's 1, that's 2. It's Finn. Look at him just shredding through Schalke.
Mad Lions and Rogue have shown they can compete against the best in the field.
Now it's a true base race as Seiken goes in. Will they get back in time? Seiken is on the Nexus for the first time in 182 days. Vitality win.
There he is.
Let's find out. Oh! Upset with a QSS flash.
The snares are there. Dan looking for a victory lap as he just runs through the Excel lineup. Dan, you got what a cleanup. Way too controlled, way too patient, but meanwhile in the mid lane, Hylissang's getting kicked off the pullback. That's a clean combo. Fnatic will move up and continue the fight for first place.
Schalke, Nulfia, SK Gaming, and Vitality are out of playoff contention.
Look for that true shot barrage. Jankos going to jump into the pit. He goes on top. He steals this. Jankos, so much weight on his shoulders in this game.
How close was this? Let's get some super slow-mo. Ulti comes through, burst 13 HP. Oh my word.
G2 will take the win. With it, they claim top spot in the LEC.
The script has been served to us on a silver platter as the top teams face off to decide who's the best in the LEC.
Why did you pick the Mad Lions?
Well, I suppose we just thought that they are the worst team.
He's on the Nexus. What's the Nexus? Starting to go low. There they've done is pushing in. Caps. No, Caps. He bounces. They almost got the kill. It's not enough. Mad Lions. They turn it around. Shadow, he's going to be taking so much damage, but look, he's still not down. He's got a G8 to work with. Equalizer comes out. They've done it. Mad Lions have defeated G2.
Mad Lions will now play the winner of Fnatic versus OG. And G2 is down to the lower bracket.
Wait, upset. Oh, a great hook from Destiny stops Upset from getting caught out. Now he's able to flash, but Bwipo able to land the final Darking Blade. Mikyx already almost down. He gets caught out, and now Upset's the next target. They're just dead. That is the series for Fnatic. They will meet Mad Lions in our winners bracket next week.
We are closing out round 1 of the playoffs with Misfits Gaming and Rogue.
Oh no, Inspired over the wall. Oh, the flash body slam. B-Boy trying to make it out to safety. No, not again. Another 80 carry making the play that loses his team the game.
How the bracket has formed up, this does mean that Rogue will face off against Origin.
Bullet time is available. It's going into the pit. That's Inspired dead. Rogue dead. Bullet time picks up Baron, and Rogue will be eliminated by Origin.
Fnatic versus Mad Lions. It is experience versus rookies.
Well,
come on, Roman.
Gonna go flash it all into 3. That's the combo. That's the kickoff. But Rekkles is firing back. So much damage from Rekkles. KARZ next to the list. Give him the penta. Fnatic put their hands in the sky and say, who is next?
We are closing out round 2 with a rematch of last year's spring final.
Mikyx gets exhausted and will fall. There's the triple. Destiny next on the menu for the quadra kill for Caps. Caps with a penta kill. G2 will take the win, and they are hankering for another shot at the rookies next week.
Oh, some amazing stuff. A quick shout out to our video team. It's not easy to make all these videos without usually the crowd shots and all the cheering, but they managed to give me goosebumps with that summary of the split, and the teams also did, honestly.
Yeah, it's
goosebumps.
Been frankly a wild ride, and even without the crowd, I feel like you can still see like everything lighting up on social media. It feels like everyone's been just as active, even though we're not in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen a lot of highlights from many, many teams. But the nature of, the competition is that there can only be 2 left standing ahead of the final and only 1 lifting the trophy. And in most cases in Europe, that has been G2 and Fnatic, as is indeed, again, the case today. So, just to reiterate again how massive it is that they keep being on top here. And I think it's about the fact that they push each other to be better and they push the region to be better. And they keep being on top because of it.
We're incredibly lucky in the LEC that we have 2 teams that you're saying are continuously find that extra edge, that continue to elevate each other. Because it's one thing to reach the top, it's another thing to stay on top. And so I think because we have these 2 titans that can go back and forth, that it helps kind of maintain these dynasties. But that said, all good things must come to an end, and I feel like the Fnatic faithful and the G2 army are kind of waiting to see where the cards are gonna fall today.
I've had the privilege to compete against these teams during these years, most of the time on different teams, and they've always set the standard. When you get to practice against them, you just feel this is the bar that you need to reach and something to strive for. So I agree completely with the notion that they level up the whole region, and this is so key for a region to have success because, as we're seeing now, a lot of teams are spawning, getting better, and I'm loving what we have over here in Europe.
Yeah, if we break it down to the separate teams, of course, we have G2 Esports, who is the youngest of the 2 in terms of the orgs entering into the European League of Legends scene. And they immediately lit a fire under the butts of Fnatic. They immediately got those 2 titles. They now have an MSI title, something Fnatic can't say either. And in a very short amount of time, respectively, they have pushed Fnatic to the edge.
It's kind of been a contest of who is the most dominant team that Europe has ever created, and not just domestically, but also internationally. And for a long time, Fnatic kind of sat on that throne with the World 1 Championship and repeatedly appearing and showing up these international events where G2 were kind of stumbling back. But now, since the MSI victory, it feels like the tables really have turned and started to more so favor or tip towards G2 being the most dominant team that Europe has ever created, which to Fnatic fans is a slap in the face.
Yeah.
And I feel like the key thing when it comes to G2 is how ruthless they've been in their acquisitions. They won the split and they kept making changes, taking Sven and Mythy from the team that they faced in the finals. Now, in the end, they have the super roster and they've just been always moving forward, trying to stay ahead of the curve. And I think this is what makes G2 so good.
Yeah, and you forget the most important one, taking Caps from Fnatic.
Yes.
And Fnatic needed Caps to beat G2 in the first place. And I think that's why when you look at Fnatic, it's also so impressive how they have kept going. Because I heard a lot of voices, and I was also of the opinion, what on earth are they going to do without Caps? And then in the end, without Broxa, who's now gone over to Team Liquid. But they made it work. And they have so much talent on that roster. So they can keep evolving. And now they have a chance to take that crown back from G2 Esports.
It's about defaulting to trust. These teams, and Fnatic in particular, have reinvented themselves so many times. Think of how many legendary mid laners have gone through Fnatic's halls who they've crafted into these icons. And yeah, losing Caps was a huge blow, but there's always going to be that voice that says, you know, if there's any team that can deal with that, that's probably Fnatic. Their ability to find talent, to raise talent, and then to print championships is pretty much unparalleled.
You have to know that you're doing things right when every player in the region just dreams of either joining Fnatic or G2, because you know joining these teams, success comes, knowledge, experience comes, and everything with it.
That is true. Let's take a look at the stats for Fnatic in the playoffs so far. As said, they were number 2 going into the playoffs, behind G2 in the regular season, but they are, until now, definitively the best performing team in playoffs so far.
And that's what's really exciting about this final matchup, not just that it's Fnatic and G2 and all the history that comes with it, but the fact is that it's the best regular split team in G2 versus the best playoff performing team in Fnatic. The TLDR of these stats is that they're disgustingly good. Fnatic are doing playoffs quick and are just running through towards that title.
It's always interesting, you know, the statistics all favor Fnatic, but it's so hard to predict the Fnatic G2 matchup because it always gets crazy and wild.
Indeed, we'll get to the predictions and your predictions at the end of Ready Check, so just a little a teaser there for that. So before we announce our Spring Split MVP, which we are going to do also in a little bit, we have to play the song that everyone is talking about. This is a new hit from LEC's best and only band.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany for the LEC Finals.
Your favorite jersey, order your favorite snack. These times are tough, we know it, but we've still got your back. Can't wait to share this moment, crowning our champs today. We might be in pajamas, we'll pop off anyway. End of this long road, one team must stand above. Now it all comes down to this, every dream and every wish. Now it all comes down to this, take a stance and fight for it. Now it all comes down to this, so chat, we've got a step for you. We are you, we are you, we are you. Esports right from home, gave it a little flair. And when we band together, this passion will be shared. We've had some clown fiestas, but the fighters never back down. Now that the greatest have gathered, who will win to hold the crown? At the end of this long road, one team must stand above. It all comes down to this, every dream and every wish. Now it all comes down to this, take a stance and fight for it. Now it all comes down to this, so chat, we've got a step for you. We are you, we are you, we are you.
Awesome. Yamato, now that we got you, I know it's finals, but the most important question, is that suit ruined? What is going on with it?
It's just water. Like I didn't like shampoo it or something. It's just water. It's fine. You
Some
wash it.
people are saying you
the water.
shampooed your eyes, like to make it look like you were crying or to make it look like your eyes were red.
No. It's just I have lenses on, and just singing, getting water in your eyes, and having your eyes open really gets difficult after a couple of takes.
Yeah, I mean, you created a GIF. Anyway, I'll say them both so nobody can say I said it wrong for the ages. Okay, cool. Well, very fun stuff, and thank you for Electronic for bringing out that new song. It is time for something very, very special and something I know you're all waiting for. And while we saw many great players during the Spring Split, only one of them was worthy of becoming the Spring Split MVP.
Like hip-hop rappers not getting proper dough. Got my foot in the dough, time to rock the boat. Still a monkey straight jacket to the hospital. It's the juggernaut. Yo, you got to go. We're getting knocked to a brick wall. Yo, listen, your mission's impossible. Concocting evil flies like Dr. No. But I'm Sean Corn with the magma flow. The magnificent.
You can see Selfmade quite low here as well. Caps might look for that true shot barrage. Jankos going to jump into the pin. He goes on top. He steals this. Jankos, so much weight on his shoulders in this game, and he manages to get the steal. There's the Requiem. Sweet Prince.
Tell the Camp fans at home, how do you play a good Karthus?
Well, you just farm, so you don't actually leave your jungle. And what's really fun about Karthus is that it doesn't really matter if you hit the Q or not, as long as you can press the R button at the right time.
But right now we see the action on the wrist.
Just get sick with the pen. Even impressed after we be getting it in.
That's it, double. It's a triple for Jankos. This shaky Shyvana, Benny. I don't want to say he's first place in Kia Player of the game.
Thank you very much, Shucks. And thank you, Jankos, for joining me. Congrats on being the 2020 Spring MVP for the LEC.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy that I have a back-to-back MVP.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something that you wanted for years up until last year, and now you get to be the back-to-back MVP. Is it something special for you?
I mean, I feel very proud of myself and very happy with my teammates, because I don't think getting MVP is like one guy only. I feel like my team kind of allowed me to shine and to play very well. They also ran it down a lot, like these games, like Caps Inting and like PERKZ Inting and stuff. So they helped me, they helped me a lot to get an MVP trophy.
I am glad that you bring that up, because I think you're gifted with amazing teammates. They're really strong and skilled. I mean, you're the best team in the LEC right now. But we know that it's a double-edged sword with the casual inting, as you said. So how do you keep up with so many crazy teammates like this?
I mean, I just think that we as G2 like to go crazy in the game. So just being like a pillar of the team that plays consistent each game allows me to perform well, right? I'm just trying to like follow the game plan that we have when we go into the game, or I'm just trying to follow our scrims patterns that we do, and I'm just trying to make like the safe calls, you could say, when everyone around me is just not always playing very well. But at the same time, I do think that my team, most of the time plays very well, and as a jungler, I'm where I'm supposed to be, and that just makes me look very strong.
Yeah, it's unexpected, and you have to keep up with everything they do and have the big picture of what's happening around the map. So that's the hardest part as a jungler. But do you wish sometimes you could, I don't want to say shine, but bring up the outside of the box picks? Because we don't often see you do that.
That's a fair point. I mean, I do like my carry junglers, but my team also likes the tank junglers. So I think throughout the split, I did play more of aggressive junglers than I used to last year, and that was very fun. And right now, even I think the playoff meta allows people to shine at different peaks. You can play like the aggressive Lee Sin Gragas style, or the more defensive, for example, like a Jarvan style. Some people do still play Sejuani, but for some reason I didn't get really forced on Sejuani throughout this year, so I'm very happy for that. But yeah, maybe I will have something in the back for the next split, something more crazy than the usual picks.
we'll see that. And let's not bring up the bad memories of the Sejuani troubles from last year. But coming into this year as the jungler of G2, again, with a different mid laner, but that's not the question. Did you have any goals that you think you achieved within the split?
I mean, we for sure wanted to go 18-0, which we didn't achieve after all. But for myself, I just wanted to have like a good synergy with Luka, since, you know, he went from mid to bot, from bot to mid right now. And I feel like we used to be better in 2018 than we were at the beginning of 2020 together. But I feel like right now the synergy is back, and we can play very well around mid lane, me and him. And what was the most important goal of 2020 so far was for me to play around bot lane very well. And Caps, as a mid laner, was normally more of a quiet guy that was fine. He was like a little bit selfish, but also selfless, because he would never ask for help. And I don't think that's a correct way of playing the bot lane. Bot lane really needs attention because it's probably the most important lane, as there's two people there. So I think that how I play around duo lane and how they play around me improved so much throughout the split that I'm very happy with that.
And anything you want to keep on improving for next split, maybe? To get the back-to-back MVP, because that's the goal here now.
That's true. I mean, I think I need to improve my listen a little bit to like go against likes of Tian and kind of be even. But except for that, I feel like I'm a very stable player, and I'm not always as shiny as some of the rookies, or I'm not always as, let's say, crazy as some of the veterans. But I do think that, you know, I play pretty much well every game, and I'm pretty happy about my performance, considering that I've been playing this game for so many years, and still I can play very well. So for the next split, I will just try to probably convince my team that aggressive junglers is the way to go, and not only, you know, basically Jarvan and go bot lane to make sure that bot lane can be ahead, because that's kind of the meta in League of Legends right now, where better bot lane always wins, so you just want to play on bot lane. But I mean, sometimes you can also play like 3 winning lanes and just like perma invade. That was the style I used to play like way back in the day, and I think that's something that really brings me joy, you know, playing Elise and perma invading.
Yeah, you mentioned playing aggressive jungles twice now during this interview, so I think that's something you really want to do. And yeah, let's hope you can bring these aggressive picks for Summer Split. But to end this interview, is there anything you want to say for the fans and panel who voted for you for this award?
Well, I'm very grateful for all the votes, to the panel, to the people watching, to all the fans. I'm pretty sure that I will not disappoint you, because, you know, I'm trying my best, and if I do, then it sucks. But why I stayed kind of like consistent throughout the years, because, you know, I really like and enjoy League of Legends, and I'm always trying my best and to be on top, and that won't change for the next split or probably for the next year. So yeah, just watch me, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to see you shine once again. Thank you, Jankos, for being such an amazing interviewee and jungler MVP for the LEC here. Congrats again.
Thank you.
And back to you, Shucks.
I had the privilege of working with this man 4.5 years ago in Rokat, and already then it was very easy to see that this man is something very, very special. For the longest time ever, Jankos was the player that, you know, was the best player to never have won a championship, and now I feel like he's finally on a team that he deserves, and he's gaining the MVPs. Jungle as a role is, you know, you do what your team allows you to do, and he's excelling, and back-to-back MVP, super deserved.
And when you take a look at the ballot, Jankos won by a huge margin. And reminder that it's regular split, not playoffs performance, so I feel like, again, a lot of people's initial reaction might be a bit colored by how G2 have done in playoffs versus regular split, but regular split, Jankos was absolutely smashing people, which is why he had such a dominant lead when we did all the tally for MVP votes.
And he's also such just a cool example of a player that really fought hard to get where he is, as you say, from KMT to Rocket to H2K to a G2 that is now printing championships, as FLICKR always puts it so fantastically. We'll see what he does today, because our Spring Split MVP, Jankos, will go up against Fnatic as he and G2 look to protect their title.
I believe in my roster. In the end, G2 will be the best team.
Just taking so much damage though, inside the pit. That's the showstopper from Wunder. PERKZ is now taken up by Cap.
I don't want to give away the throne to anyone.
Why don't you live a little?
Shadow. He gets the Baron. Is it going to be enough though? Now the rest of the team has to retreat. There's 2 members knocked in by Fnatic. Fnatic don't even care. It was a bait to get the fight kicked off. They don't mind.
I've always tried to become the player that has the most titles, so that when I'm done playing, everyone will always compare their own records against mine.
I know one thing. I can say that with confidence that I'm 100% sure there's going to be 3 on our end of the scoreboard.
Bwipo is feeling confident that Fnatic can 3-0 today, and as for how they've been playing in the playoffs so far, I'm inclined to believe it, but of course G2 is a big mountain to climb. Let's talk about how these teams play, how they win games and sometimes also lose games. And when we talk about Fnatic, I think the first thing we talk about is flexibility and the fact that they can carry through every single lane.
I think the key thing with Fnatic, if you compare this Fnatic to previous rosters, usually it was all around the bot lane, but now I feel like we are in a situation where they can play with the jungler across the board. They can play through the bottom side, they can play through the top lane, they can play through the mid lane, and on top of that, when they get an advantage, all of these lanes know how to spread that pressure. That is what makes them so goddamn lethal.
It feels like Fnatic took a page out of G2's playbook, that they were tired of sitting in the back seat and watching G2 run over them, and they had to reinvent themselves. You know, you can no longer make the same complaints about Fnatic that you once could. Their champion pools are too limited. They can only play one style. They just play that style a little bit worse than RNG do. Now it is hyper-aggressive, picking where and how they beat you. They are a true Trident-style team that can beat you in top, mid, and bot lane.
I think a key trend that I've noticed with Fnatic is that they love to draft engage heavy composition, usually from Hylissang and also of course Bwipo with these unique champion picks, and I think that fits in the meta currently beautifully because it's so Drake centered, Rift Herald centered, and this is where you want to start those fights, and Bwipo and Hilly know how to do it.
And what's cool to me is that they're able to be so dominant and to look so clean on the map with some relatively young members. Selfmade and Nemesis, yeah, they've got a split under their, or a season under their belt now, but they're still relatively inexperienced and young comparatively to the other veterans surrounding them, especially when you then look across at G2, who have just massive names and so much pedigree behind them, that it's like, what is this true ceiling of Selfmade and Nemesis? Like, how far can they climb?
Indeed, and here we see G2 then, their opponents today, and they haven't had that destructive of a run in the playoffs so far. In fact, they started out by losing to Mad Lions, and that created a lot of doubt and made it very hard for us to kind of predict what their skill level was at this point in time.
I feel like this entire playoffs, G2 got a huge wake-up call in the first round, which I'm happy that they got. Imagine they won that, maybe everything would look different. Maybe they would drop the games against, Fnatic in one series already or something like that. It was a huge wake-up call. They've adapted to the current state of the meta. We talked about heavy bot lane focus, a lot of Kalista gameplay, Vayne gameplay, and Caps is becoming a more and more real AD carry. The Mad Lions series, maybe it was just a fluke, because in the end, they beat Mad Lions convincingly, beat OG convincingly, and this series against Fnatic is going to be super exciting because G2 throughout this playoffs have improved and they've gotten better at the current meta.
Now, they've gotten better at playing around the bot lane, but something that G2 is kind of like their bread and butter is their ability to play 2v2 in the mid jungle. And I know you, Yamato, specifically love to point this one out and how dominant PERKZ and Jankos are.
I love it. I'm always a big fan of mid 2v2. I think it's the most important thing on the map because the central is the easiest way to spread that pressure. I think G2 have shown throughout the split and also in the best of fives, even the games they won against Mad Lions in the first one, it was off of the back of Jankos and PERKZ's dominance. Throughout the split, maybe Wunder had a silly performance, Mikyx or Caps had a silly performance, but throughout the split, PERKZ and Jankos delivered those victories over and over with a superior 2v2. If they're going to win out today, I really feel it's going to be through that mid lane because PERKZ, when it matters, he's going to pop off.
Yeah, and that's the key thing to take away. It's the fact that PERKZ is a clutch player, that the pedigree surrounding him is that he is kind of deserving of miracles because he's so experienced. He can just win you a game off the back of it. But so far, I haven't really seen that PERKZ that I'm used to seeing in playoffs. Like, there've been glimpses of it, but there's also been a couple of misses. So I hope today that we get PERKZ and Jankos in MVP and best form because they're going to need that if they're going to try to crack Fnatic.
True, something that is always hard to kind of exactly discern, but that we have in the past is the fact that Fnatic doesn't seem to have mental edge versus G2 when they have met in these best of fives, and definitely in the last couple of years, G2 seem to have the upper hand when it comes to those matchups specifically.
when it goes to Game 5, Fnatic have never been able to beat G2, and again, Fnatic have never beaten G2 without caps. And you know, it's something that we eliminate when we talk about pro player, but everyone who's played League of Legends has had those games where you're sitting in your lane and you're just getting camped. You just keep saying to yourself, just let me play the game. Like, come on, like, why are you here? Stop this. And you can watch them till. And that absolutely happens in pro games. And it just feels like G2 have Fnatic's number. Like, Rekkles has talked about kind of some of his mental blockers when it comes to some of the international teams, like facing RNG, and he was able to overcome those demons just this last time at Worlds. But I think he still needs to overcome the demons of facing G2, of getting over that last hurdle, because Fnatic gets so close to beating them, but there's always that tiny voice in the back of your head like, but remember, it's G2 and they're going to mess with you and they're going to pull you down.
Oh, well, undoubtedly they're going to get some help from their coaching staff for that. And in his first split as a coach, Mithy, of course, has a chance to bring the title back to Fnatic. So let's hear what he has to say ahead of this best of 5.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Welcome to the Live Like a Pro interview with Peko. Joining me right now is Mithy. How are you, Mithy?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's been 12 weeks of training and competition, and I wanted to bounce back on the interview we had 2 weeks ago. So, can you tell me, what is the secret of keeping your players on top through these 12 weeks?
I don't think there's any secret. I think if they're on top is because they deserve to be there. They work really hard, and I don't think it comes like up to me to motivate them. I think they are all very motivated themselves.
And they will have this big task today with the finals. But if we have to take a step back here, from the time you were a pro player to this 2020 LEC season, what do you see as the most noticeable and good changes with the daily life of a pro player?
Ooh, this is a very hard question to answer because like I was in Origin, which has like a very specific model, and then Fnatic doesn't really have a model at all, and everyone just does what feels right for them. So I don't think it's been like a progression, the league in general. I think some organizations have been trying to approach it and others not so much. I think slowly we're getting there, like as a whole, like esports, like LEC, everyone, is slowly getting there. But but at least for this year, for Fnatic, the call I made was, we have a lot on our plates already, and I don't really want to make the guys crazy by getting them to start thinking about all this other stuff outside the game, and I just let them vibe themselves out and see what feels right, and try to check up on them regularly and see how they're feeling and if there's anything I can do to support them.
I agree with what you said, Mithy. Here, I think everyone adds his piece to the cake to make the esports scene grow bigger, and we'll see what you guys can bring to the table in the months to come. But now let's talk present. Fnatic being the team waiting in the final, I think this didn't happen in a few years. So does it change the way players mentally prepare for finals?
It for sure gives you an advantage because you have, more time and more games to watch. So for sure gives you an advantage. I mean, I was in a similar position when we played G2 when I was in Origin, and it really felt like it was a lot, on our plates. Like we like to play 2 best of 5s and like one after the other, and like so much tension and stuff. So definitely feel like there's an advantage for sure for being in the winner bracket. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, like all these teams, like Mad Lions, Fnatic, like all these teams, like they've worked their asses off, and they're great teams. So like even though we're on the finals and it feels great, we have to be on top of things.
I agree, and it's been an amazing season to watch. At least all these strong teams showing up. I was wondering, what is your take on the level EU has been displaying this year with the new rookies Mad Lions smashing G2 2 weeks ago, you guys staying on top over the years, and G2 still being strong? What do you think about that?
I think the league itself, like since it's Spring Split, it's normal. But I just think generally the level is worse than like last year's Summer Split. But better than last year's Spring Split, if that makes any, like if you can really correlate, so. Yeah, I think we're up for a very strong Summer Split, and I'm actually very excited for that. So we'll see how it goes.
I agree with you. I think team you usually evolve through the year, and we may have a stronger Summer Split than last year. Maybe we'll see about that in a few months. But for now, spring finals are on the table. Thank you very much, Mithy, for the interview, and good luck on the finals.
Thank you.
Thank you, and see you soon. Now back to you, Sharks.
Thank you very much. Indeed. So he's already looking forward to summer, and he says the level is maybe not that high in spring. So does that mean it's an easy game versus G2, or what should we take from that?
Honestly, I don't know. I doubt he's going to look at this easy, but I like what he talked about there in terms of, you know, playing back-to-back best of fives. I've heard many times the G2 is a momentum-based team, so maybe this is the prime position to be in. Considering they have to play one best of five, they beat Mad Lions, they're happy, they bring that energy into the next one. Or if Fnatic can just sit down, this is what they do, this is their weaknesses, we've seen it everything. I don't think they're going to change between one day. There's so many things at play, it's online for the first time ever, who knows what's going to happen. It's absolutely crazy, and Mythy's position to be in this position for the first split where all these variables are new, it's very challenging, and he's done a wonderful job.
Yeah, very challenging indeed, as it will be for everyone on the Rift today. So let's go by lane and talk about every single role we'll see on the Rift today. Starting with the top lane, of course, Bwipo versus Wunder. And when you talk about the flexibility that Fnatic has to show, so much of that comes down to what this guy can pull out in the pick and ban phase.
You know, the key thing always when I think of Wunder, you know, he's a player that adapts to his opposition. But how do you adapt to this? You have one, you know, this is like a series or something. You have one, like every personality is on the board there. You have tanks, you have all of these things. You know, I mentioned how Wunder adapts to his opponent in his lane. I feel like Bwipo adapts to the opposition. He picks that key champion that is going to cut the enemy in half, whether it's a Malphite into an Aphelios or a Zac into a Syndra with very low damage onto tanks. I feel like Bwipo has really found himself. I remember last year he was this Aatrox one trick, ban Aatrox, and you got him figured out. He's gonna pick Rengar or maybe GP, but now you have this, you know, this fun little cocktail that we have on the screen right now.
And he's able to kind of twist how you think about matchups, and that's a lot of how Fnatic are dominating people in the lane phase. The early game is quite potent and powerful, and it doesn't just start at level 1, but it's the fact that when he picks these weird off-meta cocktail champions, then suddenly the other top laner is like, how does this matchup work? So what are my trade patterns? Do I need jungle assistance? Like, what is the kill pressure here? And then that's how Bwipo catches you off guard and dominates not only his lane, but then the map.
Because that leaves the question, right? Wunder can go deep. Last time they faced in best of fives, it was all about that Kled that cut, of course, Bwipo's champion pool in half. Now the question is, can Wunder find something else? Yesterday we saw the Cho'Gath, maybe something different. Wunder needs to dig deep.
Tall order for Wunder, and after a great run in the playoffs so far, Bwipo is very confident that Fnatic will win the title today. This is a clip from Euphoria.
I can say with confidence that I fully believe that the three will end up on our side of the scoreboard. How many games they end up racking up before that happens is something I don't know. That's just a feeling I get. Like, I'm very confident that we're going to win. I know we're going to win 3 games. I just don't know if that's going to take 5 games in total or if that's going to take 4 or 3. And that's what I look forward to, honestly. I really look forward to that fact. The fact that I know for a fact that my expectation is that we're winning. And I think that, you know, I said, you know, you need to set your expectation and losing's okay. Mm-hmm. It's not okay at the end. No matter what you do, you're always going to regret not winning a final. No matter what you do. So even if you set your expectations to, I hope I can hit 10 CS per minute in the finals, it's still going to feel awful when you lose. No matter how low your expectations are. And I think that that's why when I went to Worlds in 2018, for example, I just shot to the top, you know. Like, no matter what I do, if I lose in quarters and groups, it's all going to suck. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm winning Worlds.
Damn.
Same logic here. No matter what I do, if I don't win, it's going to feel awful. So I'm just going to say we're going to win. I know for a fact that we're going to win. I just believe it. I just can't not see a world where we don't win. I have a very hard time feeling that. Feeling the idea of we're going to lose. And, you know, maybe I'll eat my words and, you know, a week from now, everyone's going to laugh at me for saying this.
No, Bwipo, don't put the caveat in. You've nailed it. You've got your mic drop moment. Don't put in the caveat. Just leave it there. Just leave it there. It's so actually perfect. That is so, all right, I love it.
Oh, there you go. I love it too, you know. That's the winner's mentality. You have to envision that victory. And he remembers what happened in Athens just a couple of months ago and how much that hurt. So he's going to want to smack G2 across the face today. That is the top lane matchup. That is Bwipo. But in the jungle, we have the regular split Split MVP versus our possible playoffs MVP in Selfmade, who's been doing amazing so far.
And I'm going to come out and say it. Yeah, Jankos, you got MVP of the regular split. But personally, VoD said it yesterday. I'm starting to really lean and agree with him. I think Selfmade is the MVP of playoffs so far. He has just been an absolute beast. His Gragas has 90% win rate. The only loss that has suffered was that defeat that G2 gave him in the regular split. In playoffs, it's looked so clean. So, I don't know. I think he's got his work really cut out for him. Jankos hasn't really been in the form that he needs to take on this level that Selfmade is showing.
I feel like junglers are always the glue of the team. They piece things together, and when you have players on both rosters that are so explosive, they want so much out of the lane, they know how to attract attention and use it for good. It's very difficult to jungle with such precision that both Selfmade and, of course, Jankos have done. It's absolutely impressive, and I think coming into the finals, we have two players that are very, very similar in their play, and it's going to be super exciting to watch them lease and kick and so forth.
And that's what I love. It's the fact that it is almost kind of like a mirrored matchup in what these guys will bring to the team. That it's not like one cerebral jungle versus a very aggressive jungler. It's both of these guys are stepping forward. They are testing you at every decision that you're making. They will hard gank the lanes. They have the mechanics to execute on it and to make it work for them. And then they also have the mind of how to play these mental games in the jungle and outpath each other.
And they'll be so important, of course, with the mid-jungle synergy being a huge focal point for both of these teams. And a good point made by Jankos earlier in his interview was we always think about, oh, Mikyx having to adjust to these different people that are in the bot lane with him. But also for Jankos and PERKZ, the fact that they had that synergy in 2018 and now have to build it back up. That will influence what we will see in the mid lane between Nemesis and PERKZ as well.
It was a super good throwback. It's easy to forget because when I think of those years, I remember the funnel, I remember the Heimendiggers and so forth, but PERKZ and Jankos 2v2 mid lane has been very, very good this split. In playoffs, we've also seen glimpses of that brilliance, but when I compare the performance between PERKZ and Nemesis, if I want to look at them as individuals, I think for the first time I felt like Nemesis in playoffs has performed better than PERKZ, which kind of puts it into question. You know, Nemesis as a player, we mentioned it before, has only 1 year under his belt. Now he's coming into his third split. Now he's becoming better and better and might become that elite tier mid laner that we might speak about because he needs to show up in this matchup against PERKZ.
It's the fact that you've kind of seen the evolution of Nemesis, that he's been more comfortable pulling out his Yasuo, playing to side lanes, that he'll pull out the Ornn and the Nautilus and he'll just neutralize matchups, whereas PERKZ is like just playing the kill pressure game. He wants the dominant 2v2 mid jungle, and then he'll just force you under tower and just start ripping you apart.
Right. 3 fantastic matchups already, and now we get into a very spicy one also, I think, from a historic and story building perspective in that bottom lane. Rekkles versus Caps. Caps, who went from that winning Fnatic team to a G2, and now Rekkles gets to face him in the bot lane.
And Rekkles has to slay the hero that saved Fnatic and overcome the rival and the villain in G2. I mean, the kind of the high-level narrative point is that I need Rekkles to finally step up and to actually be the hard carry of Fnatic when it really matters, when they have their toughest competition. Because everyone who talks about Fnatic, the first name out of your mouth is always going to be Rekkles's. But it was never just Rekkles that kind of led them to glory. And now on this new iteration of Fnatic, with Nemesis, with Selfmade, with Bwipo showing up, like, it has to be Rekkles and Hilly.
Honestly, you know, I feel like looking back at how I described this matchup when Rekkles played against PERKZ that first split, I would describe it the same way. Here we have this mid laner that went into bottom, that is exploring bot lane and learning it. We've seen it throughout the playoffs, the growth of Caps. We've seen occasional moments of blunder, of course, that are easy to remember. And on the other side, you have Rekkles and Hylissang that have so much experience in terms of figuring out these matchups and finding these moments where they can punish. I think either way is going to be super, super explosive. And I think looking back at history, you know, PERKZ managed to pull it off. Maybe Caps can too. It is something that needs to be answered today.
It's also very different styles between these teams. Jankos said it in his interview, you can see it in the stats. It's almost like a hard camp bot lane since G2 have come into playoffs, where Jankos is just sitting behind Caps and Mikyx. Hilly and Rekkles are not getting that same attention from Selfmade. In fact, they'll unlock a lot, they'll use the Misfortune, use the Strut passive to make quick rotations. Hilly is running teleport on his supports that he's carrying, like the Zillion appearing up into the top lane, so it's vastly different styles. And what's going to break today? Is Jankos going to force Rekkles and Hilly to actually play the 2v2 and to fight them, or will Rekkles and Hilly completely forego Mikyx and Caps and actually play the map?
I think what's so amazing about Rekkles and Hylissang is that last year was very deceptive. Everyone thought that, oh, this is the bot lane that you need to play around. But in reality, the team just came to terms with the idea that this is the best way for them to win games. I feel like they haven't been forced into that corner just yet, and it is something they have in their back pocket. The key thing about Fnatic's bot lane too is they are very tough to crack, very hard to gank, and yet they find opportunities to find these kills no matter what. They are the refined bot lane. They are the standard of Europe and the standard of European bot lanes for many years in the past and also for many years to come.
5 insane lanes going up against each other to win that Spring Split LEC title. If I summarize what I hear here from my analyst, in every role, they give the slight advantage or a bigger advantage to the side of Fnatic. Will that translate into their predictions? What are you going with?
Who wants to take it first? Yamato, you go first or am I going first?
I can go first.
Okay.
You know, on my end, there's so many intriguing things about this. I think PERKZ is a player that levels up coming into bigger games. I think G2 always, when they face Fnatic, it was something else. They've mentioned before that they struggle with playing online. It's not the same thing as playing on a big stage. This is the time for them to show up. But I feel like the stars need to align a bit too much because on paper, Fnatic looks better. I think they're going to take it 3-2.
And now for the controversial one. I don't mean to be a G2 apologist, but frankly, when you look at the footage, if you remove that best-of-5 upset from Mad, which was the biggest upset that we've seen, you have them in a rematch against Mad Lions and taking down Origin. And in those two series, G2 looked very, very clean, almost as clean as Fnatic. So I think that that one upset has really skewed things to people being so heavy on Fnatic's side. And when these two teams are in their best form, if you go back to the regular split, if you widen the amount of tape that you're taking in, G2 had Fnatic's number. They absolutely destroyed Fnatic in the first time that they met in the regular split. They stole the Baron and styled on them with Janna in the second time that they won the split. I think that we're going to see G2 in best form today. That's what I have to believe, and that's why I think G2 will win 3-2.
Honestly, it's heartbreaking to predict this one because it's so difficult.
Yeah.
It's like I can easily go either way because when you try to picture this matchup, it's so difficult because you know that the teams are going to look very different from how they look like in comparison to them facing other teams. It's going to be a unique matchup, and I'm just happy that we're here with G2 Fnatic facing each other because you know there will be fireworks. These are the moments where the elite players truly show themselves. They have those clutch moments that are going to be remembered forever, and those are the players like PERKZ, like Rekkles. This is where they get to bring out the big guns. In these previous best of fives, it wasn't really necessary. Maybe in the Mad Lions series, sure, you can say it, but you know, it felt like G2 was kind of, you know, out of place in that series. I want to put that in history. I don't care about this one. Coming into this best of 5 is going to look very, very different, and this is where the star players are going to shine.
It's kind of like that mentality of the only history that matters is the history that you make today, and I totally understand what you're saying, but I was trying to figure it out. I was like, is there any way that you can actually analytically match up Fnatic versus G2? So I went back to the tape and I was just watching how these two teams faced off in our most recent footage. And I feel that Fnatic usually have the stronger early game. The fact that they unlock Hilly, they use him in a lot more formations, they get him more involved. It feels like every time they have a great level 1 play that they kind of get the sucker punch. And it's like, if they get the snowball ahead on that, Fnatic can close, they can look just as dominant. But I think that G2 have the superior mid game in that they'll often play out to 1-3-1. They'll usually give PERKZ a champion that he can play out on a side lane. And I have more confidence in PERKZ and Wunder's ability to play side lanes, to pick the correct lane assignment every single time than I do Fnatic's. And so if Fnatic win, it's because Fnatic got the big wombo combo team fight. Hilly and Bwipo were able to find them, to crack them, to have those hard engage tools. If G2 win, it's because they split you up and they dissected you, and PERKZ and Wunder made the right calls at the right moments.
We'll see. A lot to stew on because it will be very hard to predict what exactly we're going to see between these two teams. But one thing is sure, they're going to bring their best level of play because it's for all the marbles and it is for all that history that runs between G2 Fnatic in Europe so far, and a chance for Fnatic to take that title back from G2 Esports. We will see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. The wait is over as we are ready now finally to crown our champions, and this is our spring final.
Days gone, I won't waste another one. All that darkness, it won't set me back again. Heads down,
It wasn't supposed to be this way. We were supposed to be in Budapest. We were supposed to be able to share these moments and memories together in person. This is Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC, my home, and for the first time ever, a home Spring Split final. Over the past few months, a lot has happened, and I miss seeing all of you in the studio, in the stadium, and out and about here in the city. But if I've learned one thing over the last few weeks, it's that the drive and the determination of our communities and countries will not be broken. We will rise above these troubled times together. True champions overcome adversity and adapt to the new circumstances. Today, we celebrate them, the best teams in League of Legends. This is the LEC, and we are EU. Top lane. For Fnatic, it's Bwipo with 12 unique champions playing. G2's Wunder never ceases to amaze as the top lane ambulance takes over. Jungle. For Fnatic, it's Selfmade barreling his way into ganks. And for G2 Esports, it's Jankos, Europe's back-to-back split MVP. In the mid lane, Fnatic's Nemesis slithers into lane. G2's mid laner PERKZ, the greatest Western player of all time. In the bot lane, the weapon of EU. It's Fnatic's Rekkles. G2's Caps has silenced the haters in the bottom lane. In support, roaming to wreck your lane, it's Hylissang! G2's Mikyx has a death sentence targeted at your soul. Rock, paper, scissors. Mikyx comes out on top. 7-time champions Fnatic. 6-time champions G2. The greatest rivalry in League of Legends. Fnatic versus G2.
And what a final it is likely to be here, Vedi. I'm honoured to be joined by you on the caster desk for our first duo cast of a final in a very long time.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one, Medic. I couldn't ask for a better partner. We are, of course, going to be jumping straight into Champions Select for Fnatic versus G2. It is the best of 5 that everyone has been anticipating. Many expected 2 in the same way that we got it last split, but due to the upset by Mad Lions, we were robbed of it. But now it is finally coming to pass. I can't wait to see it, and I'm curious as to what the priorities are going to be. Fnatic will be on the blue side. So far in playoffs, they have consistently been banning away the Kalista. Medic, regardless of what side they're on, they just take it off the board. It is something that they clearly just don't want to play with, so I feel like Kalista is going to be banned away. I think Syndra is something they don't really put a huge amount of priority on, and I think they're going to want to take it away from G2, and I think after G2's performance yesterday, Yuumi is going to be one of the big priority bans on the side of Fnatic.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Things like the Pantheon obviously rise up in pick ban priority as well when we've seen Jankos play it so well in the past. There it is, removed straight away alongside the Kalista that you were talking about. There's the Syndra, and now we'll see where G2 decide to go for their second ban.
I imagine they're going to take the center off the board. It's something that Fnatic have prioritized a lot over playoffs, and when we think about other things that they need to take away, like there's things like the Gragas, there's also things like the Thresh that they need to think about, because it is something that Hylissang often defaults to when a lot of his strong supports are unavailable, but a lot of them are actually up on the boards. They're still going to take it away anyway, and that's immediately, okay, it's because of the Aphelios priority that Fnatic is going to grab for themselves.
This is such a quick first set of pick and bans though. Azir, Jarvan immediately locked in. There's Tom Kent alongside Veigar. I remember watching Nemesis play the Veigar against G2 at the start of Spring Split. Didn't work out too well for him then, but it is one of his signature champions.
Wow, look, this is like speed drafting, but clearly both these teams have come in with a plan. The Veigar being used as a counter pick to the Azir. It's something that Nemesis is very comfortable on, something that he can default to. And we'll talk a lot more about it when we actually get into the game, but the second phase of bans are already coming in thick and fast, man.
Holy moly, they're like, okay, we've gone through Robin Schultz, we've gone through the pregame, let's get on into this match of League of Legends as quickly as we can. The Lulu is locked in. Expect that to be the support here, of course, because Azir already locked in for the mid lane. Sylas Lee Sin, the final 2 picks for Fnatic, so that's going to be Sylas in the top lane. Is Lulu Cogmore? It's Lulu Cogmore for G2. Like, wow. That is so brave. Caps has been out of position so many times across the course of this playoffs, and so you're like, okay, if you get caught, we're just going to save you anyway.
This is like the fastest draft I think I've ever seen. that was ridiculous. Okay, so both sides clearly knowing what they want. Like, let's jump straight into it. So the Sylas being used as an answer to the Ornn, something we've been seeing a lot over in the LCK and the LPL, and it's because you can take away that Ornn ultimate. You scale very well. That AP additional damage that you'll bring into these late game fights offers a lot of value. And again, you kind of look across the board for Fnatic. Strong scaling in the form of the Veigar. The amount of zone control that he's going to provide is going to make it difficult for G2 to be able to dive onto the backline. Aphelios is going to have so much peel with this composition because of the amount of disengage that you have from the Lee Sin, from the Tahm Kench, from the Veigar as well. So Fnatic going for more of a scaling approach with a little bit of a weaker early game with not that many lanes to play around in the early stages.
But it feels like G2 don't have a huge amount of early game themselves. Jarvan is very good at ganking, but when you put him alongside something like a Cogmore who wants to get to 2-3 items before he's incredibly powerful, and a Azir who's looking for that Nash's Tooth, and then maybe a Rabadon's on top of it before he's incredibly powerful, both teams seem to be willing to play a slower paced early game.
I mean, that's for sure, but you've got to remember that there's a lot of early game aggression with the junglers, so eyes on Selfmade and Jankos coming into game 1.
Eyes on Selfmade and Jankos, the 2 Polish junglers, one of them the MVP of the split, the other pretty close in a lot of people's estimations, probably the second best jungler in the league. And now Selfmade in his first finals has to see how much of an impact he can have early on. Fnatic looking for that level 1 play as Bwipo perhaps will catch out Mikyx. Rest of the team not quite there yet. There's the route, but Mikyx should be able to walk his way away from this one, as there's not really much follow-up CC for Fnatic.
Ooh, but Fnatic, they just want to get a bit of information on where Jankos is starting, because this influences a lot of early game priority. The fact that they didn't spot out Jankos here heavily suggests that Jankos is doing a solo clear, or maybe he'll get a bit of assistance from, a good interrupt there from Hylissang as well, to delay the base from Mikyx. Fnatic is setting up full control over this bot blue buff. This means they're going to get to lane very early, very quickly, and they're going to get that priority push. This is going to enable Selfmade to be able to start on his red and then look to invade the enemy blue buff. That means that they can split the map and deny the ability for Jankos to actually support and play around the bot side, which he could look to do. Remember that Kog'Maw in the early game has a lot of damage just thanks to his W, and when you pair that with a Lulu, this lane can be very oppressive, very obnoxious to deal with. And Fnatic's game plan is clearly like, hey, no jungle support for you, we want to leave you on an island, and we want to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible in the early game.
Well, we'll see if Fnatic are able to keep up that pressure in the bottom lane. Do want to just remind everyone of how high the stakes are in this game. Both Fnatic and G2 have been in every single LEC final we have ever had. One of those two teams has participated. Fnatic, over 15 splits, have got 7 titles. G2, in 9 splits, have won more than half the time. 6 titles for them. If G2 win today, they will equal Fnatic's record 7 titles in the LEC.
Yeah, both teams are winners. That is the pedigree that comes from being a part of either G2 or Fnatic, and in recent history it has heavily gone in the favor of G2, but last split alone it was insanely close, both best of 5s going all the way to 5 games, and I know many fans are hoping that we get to see the same thing again today, but already we're getting some action as Selfmade looks for a gank top.
Flash in from Bwipo means that Wunder will flash in response and summon a burn for both the top laners, but Selfmade on the top side of the map could look for a repeat gank on the Ornn if he so desires.
So I do want to backtrack a little bit to some of the early pathing that we did see, because a good ward that you can see on your screen right now to the left of Jankos was placed to see if Fnatic would actually look for an invade. They decided not to go for it, which has now given Jankos all of his buffs and a setup gank for the bot side of the map. They recognize that Hylissang and Rekkles are in a bit of an awkward position here. The wave state is good for G2, so they want to see if they can make something happen. But of course, Rekkles has chosen to reset. He knows that he can get a good cheetah recall off here, grab himself an early BF sword, and make Aphelios a little bit more powerful here in the 2 versus 2.
Yeah, getting those double Dorns makes it a little bit easier for him to survive. Was wondering if G2 were running the double exhaust bottom lane, as they have done in the past. Instead, it's the heal on Caps to try and keep himself a little bit more topped up if he ever gets jumped on. Jankos has spent a little bit more time down here, but more than likely this is just to allow Caps and Mikyx to push in the wave, and so that they can get a recall without jungler intervention.
Yep. You can also see the pretty deep ward that's been put in the bot lane as well. Nemesis and Bwipo both running teleport, both still currently have it available. If they see an opportunity to attack Caps and Mikyx, they're going to look for it. But so far, based on how Rekkles and Hylissang have been playing this lane, they're feeling very comfortable. Hylissang trying to interrupt the back, he does have that information. This is just basically making it harder for G2 to get a good base off. You saw that Rekkles was able to go back and then come back to lane, and he didn't lose any farm. He's actually still ahead in the CS department, and he was able to get that Doran's Blade. Caps wanted to do a similar thing right here, but because his recall is going to be delayed, Fnatic have the opportunity to deny more CS, punish him a little bit more, but fortunately for Caps, the wave state the way that it currently is, he probably shouldn't lose that much CS.
It's going to be able to get back on in just enough time. Wunder here in the top lane, looking for a gank from Jankos, but that second bush is awarded, and Bwipo now will be aware that Jankos is waiting around the wings, and knowing that he's already burnt his flash, of course, can just back away. The wave isn't in the best position for him, but be able to get a few of the CS before it pushes out.
Good response there from Bwipo, playing defensively, recognizing that because he doesn't have his flash, the possibility of a gank is very real, and he's respecting that. We do see PERKZ taking a bit of poke in the mid lane. This is one of the obnoxious things about Veigar into Azir. The cage is just enough range that it can harass every time PERKZ tries to put a Sand Soldier up, and he's able to land that bit of poke. Now we see a Rekkles and Hylissang classic. After their first reset at around level 4, they actually have this habit of always roaming into mid lane. Not necessarily to force a play, it's mainly to just have a little bit of control. Maybe if there's an opportunity there to make a play, then they'll take advantage of it, but if not, they'll just go back to bot and catch the wave, as we see more action in the top lane.
Yeah, Bwipo's trading. I don't know if Jankos knows that Selfmade's here. Soon they should realize Bwipo's going to get land the chains down. Selfmade with the Sonic Wave hits the resonating strike on Jankos and forces him away. Bwipo looking for a little bit more damage as Wunder lands the knockup, but Wunder is going to be able to get back underneath his tower. Selfmade's still on the chase, no level 6 for him yet. Brittle would have done a lot of damage, but now with Bwipo being level 6, I wonder if Wunder can stay around behind his tower, because he's not yet hit that ultimate mark, and here comes the call of the Forge God against the one who usually prays for him, but a great Bellow's Breath will stop it in its tracks, and Bwipo dies! Incredible play from Wunder there to anticipate the ult, and then use his W to get out of it.
Ooh, meanwhile in the mid lane, a bit of poke, the ult! Not going to be enough to get that kill onto PERKZ, which means that G2 end up drawing first blood with no response. You could see the game plan here for Fnatic. They want to use their level advantage. 6 on Bwipo, 5 on Selfmade. They steal away the ultimate and they're like, this will be easy. So the knockup comes up, but a great use of the Bellows Breath, as you were talking about, Medic, to make sure that he doesn't get knocked up while still dealing damage. And then also another great knockup from Jankos to interrupt a lot of damage as well. The coordination between Jankos and Wunder was flawless, and that allowed them to stop this dive coming through from Fnatic.
And we can see Wunder comes back with a Catalyst of the Aeons building up towards an Abyssal Mask. Will help, of course, against the double AP threat that comes out from Bwipo and Nemesis in this game. Usually, well, you can see either the Sunfire Cape or the Abyssal Mask Cape first on Ornns, depending on the laning matchup. Here, Wunder has the good sense to go for Magic Resist first. I think if he hadn't gone for Magic Resist first, I would have said that was a little bit foolish. But he's decided to itemize properly.
You're also playing against double AP, so getting that early Abyssal Mask is always going to be super valuable as well. Now kind of like looking at the map state in the way that it is, you have to start thinking about who's going to prioritize Drake. Could teams look for a swap to maybe go for an early Rift Herald, given that we're getting close to the 8-minute mark? You can see both junglers pathing towards the bot side. Jankos only level 5, and given that Rekkles and Hylissang currently have the push in the bot lane, they've actually started this one off. Getting very low, PERKZ roams down, we're going to see a fight.
Dragon is secured, Exhaust goes down on Jankos as he looks to try and get away, but he's gobbled up and spat out by Hylissang, and there's a lot of damage coming out from the Inferno. Rekkles with his first kill of the game, and Fnatic's first of the series. PERKZ going to shuffle his way away as Wunder's teleported in. He does have that Call of the Forge God, but I don't think G2 want to take this fight, as Fnatic have the river control, have the Dragon, and have their first kill of this match.
Fnatic was in a much better position when it came to that Drake. Jankos was testing the waters, thinking, hey, maybe I can actually get a collapsive from the rest of my team, ends up getting punished. But look at Wunder behind, he has the ult.
There are both flashes available for Fnatic, and with the TP coming in, you can see Nemesis wants to join this party. Mikyx low underneath the turret. The flank is on. It's 5 members in the bottom lane. Only 8 minutes. Fnatic unwilling to give up on this fight as they have been through the entire split. Mikyx's going to flash away. Just about manages to survive. PERKZ on his way across as well. Has yet to join this fight though, so it's a 4v5 still in favor of Fnatic, but they've already lost one. And here comes the double knockup, and here comes PERKZ from the side. It's a double for Cogmore, and Fnatic find themselves running back towards their base, limping away as G2 take 2.
Disaster for Fnatic. They attempt another dive, and again, you can see what they're trying to do. The setup looked great. They had level advantages, they had health advantage, they had numbers advantage. Everything looked like an advantage for Fnatic, yet G2 was able to find the outplay. Let's see if Bwipo can get something back. He's lying in wait. Mikyx, very low, no summoner spells.
Selfmade's on his way as well. Bwipo trying to get on towards Mikyx, gets the damage down, and there is the kill. Now Bwipo in the middle of a lot of minions here. Caps has the red buff, that's ticking away. Only Vampiric Scepter on him though as Selfmade flashes forward. Caps doesn't get the flash away from the Sonic Wave, and he is shut down by Fnatic.
So Fnatic finally answer, and they get themselves a good number of kills. They'll also get the Rift Herald because they made the swap up towards topside. Good adaptation on the fly, and Medic, we're only getting a taster of what this entire series is going to look like. Constant aggression, constant adaptation. Jankos will walk into Fnatic, recognizing this has started, but it's going to be too little, too late. Fnatic will okay.
Jankos had smite, and there wasn't a smite there. That was 24 HP awaiting disaster for Fnatic.
Jankos had smite as well, but he wasn't in range. But let's backtrack. Let's go back to this bot lane dive. So Wunder, he TP'd bot because Jankos had died in that previous Drake. Fnatic's duo were just trying to push this in to look for a reset, and then the TP comes through from Nemesis with the Sylas still here as well. So again, 3 versus 5, Fnatic's feeling pretty comfortable. But Mikyx and Caps with a good exhaust onto Bwipo, I mean, he can't actually execute the backline, so Fnatic gets split up. They're playing 3 versus Ornn and 2 versus the backline, and that is what allows G2 to win out in this skirmish. But then clever thinking comes through from Fnatic. Bwipo sneaks his way into the brush, lies in wait, and he knows what G2 is going to do. He knows that G2 want to push out this wave, he knows that they want to reset, and so Selfmade comes back into the fight, is able to assist Bwipo in finding these kills, and then this is how Fnatic immediately answer back. And what could have been a disastrous play that started to snowball the game in favor of G2, again, quick thinking from Fnatic puts them back in an even state in this first game.
And what I love from Fnatic there was they weren't just playing around the bottom lane. They realized, you know, Caps and Mikyx are down there, our junglers down there. Rekkles and Hylissang immediately went up to the Rift Herald, started it up, and then got that for themselves as well. So they now have that advantage to try and look to take down a turret. It looks like it's already been used in the top lane. And it should be able to actually just charge in and get the first turret of the game. And all that gold going over to Rekkles is only a good thing for Fnatic.
Yeah, I love the fact that Fnatic swapped out of this 2v2 as quickly as possible, because the obnoxious thing about ranged matchups is how oppressive and how much they can bully you out of lane, but the way in which Rekkles and Hylissang have played this 2v2 has mitigated a lot of that early pressure, with the early invade, with the getting to lane first, with the proactive plays that we're seeing from them. They've managed to mitigate a lot of that, and now they're getting around the map. They've secured themselves the first tower. They've now reclaimed gold advantage, and now they're looking for a collapse in top lane.
Trying to catch out Caps, the flash forward from Hylissang. There's the Dragon's Rage, and there goes Selfmade. His first kill on the board as Jankos comes in with the Cataclysm, trying to lock Hylissang in place. The thick skin won't save him for too long, but he's not tanking up the tower. PERKZ shuffling in from the side will be able to take down the Tahm Kench, and it's a 1-for-1 trade in the top lane.
Medic, the action is not slowing down. We're 4-for-4 in kills right now, and Fnatic recognized that Caps was isolated in the top lane, so they use the Tahm Kench ultimate to flank in from behind. They bring Selfmade as well, and they're able to find that pick, but G2 is quick to respond. They're able to find a pick of their own, and they keep the game on its toes. The gold is dead even. We're 12 minutes in, Medic, and both teams are fighting tooth and nail to stay relevant in this game.
I mean, this is G2 Fnatic, right? This is the reason that they have been in 15 of the 15 finals we have had in the LEC. This is why only one team has ever claimed even a single title away from these two teams. It is the greatest rivalry in esports, well, in League of Legends at least, in my opinion. And Fnatic and G2 are showing us just why that is the case. No first item yet on Rekkles. He's building up towards the Essence Reaver as Hylissang comes in towards the bottom lane to try and force Mikyx away.
So we can see now G2 is clearly setting up for the next Drake. They're trying to force Rekkles and Hylissang back so they can gain some control over the bot wave, and they're going to try and use their numbers to push in mid. Oh, as they go onto Nemesis.
Nemesis put down the cage and thought he was safe, but PERKZ and Jankos have something else to say. Second kill of the game for PERKZ, and now that dragon is pretty easy for G2.
Yeah, so with their numbers advantage, they should be able to secure this. It would be dangerous for Fnatic to try and contest, so I think just putting more plates onto Rekkles, pushing in that mid wave, makes a lot more sense. Hylissang, he doesn't have flash.
Doesn't really have a way to get out of this apart from limping back towards his turret. Wunder and
Just gonna run away.
Chase. Just runs away. He waddles. Tahm Kench waddles more than runs, Vedius. Trust me, as a man who waddles, that is exactly what it looks like.
And
Bwipo
he's able
here
to disengage
Yep.
pretty cleanly. Now PERKZ looking to hold onto the mid lane. Bwipo knows that PERKZ has no ultimate, but he doesn't know that Wunder's right behind him.
Yeah, the Kingslayer will heal up Bwipo just a bit, but the Call of the Forge God is too little too late. Shutdown goes down as Bwipo overextends a little bit in the mid lane.
Yeah, a small overextension there from Bwipo ends up getting punished by G2. They're going to extend the kill lead to 6 now, and now G2 have their eyes set on the bot lane, but Rekkles and Hylissang, good awareness. They know they don't have pressure in mid, they know that River doesn't belong to them, so they're playing defensively. And for now, the game is going to slow down, but only for a little while. Like, there's still a lot of our towers left, and I feel like both teams are going to be looking to play for these objectives. It's difficult to siege against an Azir, so for now, Fnatic's priority is going to be invested in trying to secure this bot tier 1. Meanwhile, G2, with their longer range of the Azir and the Kog'Maw, it wouldn't surprise me if their focus is actually more invested towards this mid lane to try and punish this Veigar before he gets to a point where he's unmanageable.
We have seen a sort of a shift in G2's strongest member across the course of this game. At the start, of course, Caps picking up those 2 early kills. It looked like he would be the key carry for them. But now he's sitting about 1,500 gold behind Rekkles, whereas PERKZ is sitting about 1,000 to 1,500 up on Nemesis in the mid lane. PERKZ is going to be one of the key carries for G2 in these team fights. We have 3 minutes left on the next dragon, so perhaps one will come up around there, or, as you say, Vedius, perhaps those outer towers are where we're going to see the next skirmishes.
Yeah, so you can see, as we were talking about, Fnatic brought their duo into the mid lane. They pushed out that wave against PERKZ, and now they're rotating towards the bot side of the map. This is forcing Wunder to disengage because he knows he's at risk of getting collapsed. And because Fnatic now know that G2 is not on the bot side, they can rotate back to mid while slowly chipping away at this tower and not conceding full map priority. Meanwhile, G2 is doing the exact same trade, just on the opposite side of the map. Both teams just kind of wrestling for this mid priority right now, as the next Herald will be spawning soon, and I imagine that's going to be a big point of contention for both these teams.
Well, it looks like Fnatic have slightly earlier play down towards this bottom lane. That's their second turret of the game taken. With it, about a 700 gold lead. Nothing too consequential, but can always snowball pretty rapidly in a game like this. The pace has slowed down, Vedi. We've only had 2 kills in the last 4 minutes.
It's true, Medic. but I imagine it's going to pick up again very soon. Let's do a quick item and level check-in, because we can see that, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the core itemization is starting to come through, a lot of first items across the board, but level 11 for PERKZ, a level 11 for Wunder means they have those 2 points in their ultimates, and they're going to be feeling very strong. What I find interesting here is G2 has actually decided to concede pressure around this Rift Tower, and instead are going to trade it for more map control. They're going to secure the tier 1 on the bot side of the map, they're going to push in mid-wave, but they're not going to overextend. They're going to wait, and they're going to reset, and then look to get back on the map. So Fnatic feeling pretty comfortable right now. They're still dead even in gold. They're pretty set on their itemization as well. Yes, they're a little bit behind in experience due to the deaths that both Bwipo and Nemesis have had so far in this game, but they have a Rift Herald, which means that they're going to immediately use it mid, which makes sense, because when playing against an Azir with this high wave clear, you want to be able to break that turret down, and this is the perfect objective to help you with that.
Yeah, because Bwipo was catching those top waves and pushing them in, someone had to go up there and answer him, so G2 unable to get enough defenses rallied to the mid lane to actually stop that tower going down. Fnatic with their third of the game, and a minute left before that Mountain Dragon comes up. We're not looking at soul point for anyone, it's one apiece in terms of dragons, but if you can continue to take these neutral objectives, you can really get those next fights on your own terms. You know, when you're looking at the third dragon, at the fourth dragon fight, you want to be pulling the enemy team towards you rather than having to step in knowing that you might lose the soul point.
So what we can see now is that both teams playing this 4-1 setup, neither has really a champion that you dedicate to that 2 split pushing lanes, because you have the Veigar and the Azir, of course, so you kind of want to shadow those champions to make sure that they're feeling safe, they can push out these waves and take another tower. As we can see G2 continuing to gain a little bit more control over the map. You talked about the Drake, and that's definitely going to be the next big point of contention, because that Drake win condition is definitely going to be something we have to bear in mind. Both comps scale quite well. I'm really excited to see how these team fights will play out, because I honestly think they could go either way. I think that G2 have a slight scaling advantage, but honestly, because there are so many intricacies, especially when you look at how G2 and Fnatic actually play team fights, you can never really say for sure. And G2, with the push that they have in bot, will gain first access to the bot side river. Now it's all about this fight for mid priority, and given that PERKZ got to the wave first, it looks like G2 are going to have control for now.
Abyssal Voyage used by Hylissang. The Twin Shadows come out as well as Caps is slowed down. They're going to lock him up with the Gravitum. He's actually just stuck in place. Exhaust comes down and teleports here from G2 to try and join this fight. But Wunder is a long way away as Hylissang's already fallen. Wunder goes in. Call of the Forge God comes down, looking for the knock-up on Bwipo, and Rekkles doesn't land it on either. Mikyx low. Selfmade kicks him away and takes his life, but PERKZ is now going to jump forward as Selfmade gets the Wild Growth stolen away from Mikyx. Wunder jumping in as well as PERKZ goes on a rampage, and this is devastation! G2 have just wiped Fnatic away in the mid lane, and it's only Rekkles left alive. Caps, Jankos, and Wunder looking to slay the Aphelios, or if they can't, take this tower and get that dragon.
Just as we were talking about team fights, we have one unfold in front of our eyes, and it is G2 that ends up coming out on top. 3 kills for 2, they'll get themselves the mid-tier 1, they'll also secure the mountain, and Fnatic losing a little bit more control over this game. You can see how difficult these fights are for them when they force themselves into this narrow choke point. Engaging with this composition is quite difficult. They're very reliant on using these spooky ghosts, the slows, combined with the field from the Veigar to trap targets in this point, but a quick flash comes out from Caps to be able to disengage. The TP in from Wunder actually isn't that needed this early on into the fight, because a great stopwatch from Jankos buys enough time for Caps and PERKZ to reposition. Selfmade tries to get something back, he does find a quick execute onto Mikyx, but he also then baits the rest of Fnatic too close to the fight, allowing for a good knockup from Wunder. The ultimate comes through from PERKZ, who just barely dies at the very end, and Rekkles is the only one left standing.
And it's the issue is if you leave either Caps or PERKZ alive on the outside of a team fight, they are just going to rain hell down upon you. They have so much sustained damage in a fight, and you could see Rekkles wasn't able to get in the same position to output that DPS for Fnatic. It's a 400 gold lead only for G2. The kill score might look like devastation for Fnatic, but it's not too dissimilar. 2,000 gold lead for Rekkles in that bottom lane. Mid lane though, 2,000 ahead is PERKZ on the Azir, only scaling up, now has that Liandry's complete on the Azir. And I wonder if that's a demonstration of how teamfights will go from now on, Vedius, or, as you say, if just those tiny intricacies, those tiny changes could slew it in Fnatic's favor.
So the problem that Fnatic is going to have as they look towards the future fights is that Rekkles is in a great position, right? He's working towards his third item, he's going to have the Infinity Edge, and he's going to be feeling very comfortable. But Fnatic want to try and eliminate this Kog'Maw as quickly as possible, even though he's not the biggest damage threat, because even on just one item, he does so much damage. And on top of that, PERKZ is incredibly fed, and the same can't be said for Nemesis, who's largely just built utility at this point. His ultimate can deal a lot, but at this point in the game, it's not going to be as scary. So it's kind of the Rekkles show for the time being until Bwipo gets a couple more items, which means that G2's going to have control. And Fnatic, well, I think they should stall, they're instead going to look for another fight.
Moonlight Vigil used, the cage is down as well as Bwipo's looking for Jankos. If he can catch him out, they could win this fight, but Fnatic just have to back away from it. Wunder wasn't even there, wasn't even in the fray as Bwipo jumps forward. There's the Cataclysm jumping onto Caps, but Bwipo is caught out and he's already down. And now Nemesis is going to get chased out with the Call of the Forge God as well. Wunder looking for the flank position, PERKZ shuffling forward. Has the flash, has the streamer shuffle available if he wants it as well, but instead G2 just back away. They are willing just to take that kill and then look to reset the map.
I think this was a situation where Fnatic saw that they had numbers advantage, and because they had a ward that they could TP flank on, it was one of those situations where they thought they would try to capitalize. Unfortunately, it just didn't go the way that they wanted to. The initial engage from Bwipo, actually looked very promising. The fact that Fnatic had those 5 members forcing G2 into this choke point, but it was this Azir turret that I think made it far too difficult for Fnatic to commit to the engagement, because you could see G2 just slowly disengaging into this choke point. PERKZ and Caps are actually in a very safe position. Meanwhile, Jankos is just tanking up the front line. You can see that Wunder is miles away, but now Hylissang's out of the fight. He's gone, and the rest of Fnatic can't follow up on this engage, so Bwipo is effectively in a 1 versus 5. And then Nemesis, what's he going to do against this Stoneplate Jarvan, who's just holding the line for G2? So I think this was a situation where Fnatic saw an opportunity, they overcommitted, and then G2 end up punishing.
And a big issue for Fnatic as well is that Selfmade has gone for the Umbral Glaive first here. He's gone for a little bit of ability to clear out wards, a little bit of extra lethality, but it means he can't really withstand much time trying to get into the backline of G2. If he's hit by a few auto attacks from Caps, a few auto attacks from PERKZ, he's just going to get shredded. And so it means that he really has to find a great kick if they're going to be able to work through these fights. Because right now, it looks like if Fnatic force a fight too hard, G2 are very willing just to step back and then slowly work through the Fnatic players.
Yeah, I think you're right, Medic, because when we kind of look at how G2's composition is playing out, it feels very front to back. You know, you have the 2 main tanks, you have the Wunder on Ornn, you have Jankos on Jarvan, and these 2 have just built full tank. And the Lulu, typically the problem with ranged or mage supports is that they can't face check the enemy jungle, but that's fine because they have that covered for, which means that there's enough peel and enough protection for the long-range backline that is Kog'Maw and Azir, that if Fnatic can't find a flank, can't find a pick, it's actually very difficult for them to successfully get onto Caps and PERKZ, which means that G2 is just going to have more damage. So these upcoming fights are just going to get harder and harder for Fnatic unless they can get that good vision control to find those flanks. And as you can see on the map right now, they don't really have it. There is that one ward, but there's no TPs available outside of Nemesis unless he wants to try for that, which means that G2, they're going to start off the Baron and force Fnatic to come to them.
It might just be gone before Fnatic can even get there. Hylissang's checking into it. Now he knows that G2 are on
It's
it.
gone.
The Baron already
Wow.
gone. It's down. And there's no one here from Fnatic to really follow up on a fight. Hylissang's going to try and step forward, but G2 are just willing to back away. So, okay, we'll take all 5 players having the Baron buff. We'll take our 2,500 gold lead. And we'll take a commanding position in this game.
Good setup there from G2. They used their mid-prio and they recognized that they were much stronger, so if Fnatic tried to force another fight, that they'd probably win. So Fnatic, playing more a defensive style, conceded mid-prio, allowing G2 to then move into the bot side of Fnatic, or the top side rather, of Fnatic's jungle, giving them full control over the Baron space and just melting it down. Kog'Maw, Azir, Liandry's with the Rage Blades and Blade of the Ruin King. Like, G2 just melt through these objectives so quickly, and you can see them now do the same thing against this Mountain Drake. G2 seem to have so much more control. Gold is very even. I feel like that these fights are just going to be very difficult to play out for Fnatic. So let's see if they can find that pick that they're going to need if they want to stay relevant in this game.
Right now, it looks like they're going to put Nemesis up into the top lane just to clear out those waves as they push in. Of course, no inhibitors down yet, so we don't have any of those super minions pushing in, but G2 are looking to use this Baron buff to its full effect. 2 minutes left on it. PERKZ splitting off by himself, the rest of G2 down towards this bottom lane. Bwipo a level down on Wunder, but with the Abyssal Voyage coming in, that's right in the middle of all of G2, and Hylissang jumps straight into his own demise as Caps opens up. The exhaust coming out, Hylissang able to flash away, but now Wunder looking for the Call of the Forge God, looking for the knockup, lands it, and Caps will get the kill. Nemesis flanking with the TP, he's exhausted as well. Bwipo now forced underneath the tower as PERKZ slides his way in and flashes forward. Bwipo underneath the turret will fall very soon. Nemesis where you're caught in the middle of all 4 of the G2 players and you're going to go down as well. G2 with a clean 4-0, and they're going to look to push in and perhaps end this game.
I think this was the last-ditch effort from Fnatic. They recognized that these fights were only going to get harder. They saw that Azir was in the mid lane and they thought, maybe we can find a fight before PERKZ can collapse. But even in the 4v5, G2 was far too strong. And now with 5 members and a Baron buff, they're going to look to end the game.
Selfmade and Hylissang, last chance saloon on this defense as G2 are pushing on the Nexus turrets. And really, what can Lee Sin and the Tanketch do? Selfmade tries to do something, but really ends up doing absolutely nothing at all. The second Nexus tower will fall, and G2 are back to winning ways. They will take the first game against Fnatic.
The early game was bloodthirsty, Medic. It was chaotic. It was across the board. Kills everywhere. I think that we saw some clever stuff from both teams. I loved what Fnatic was doing in the early game to mitigate what G2 was trying to do, but when we started seeing more of the fights, we saw how much harder things were getting for Fnatic in the actual team fights, and so many picks that they attempted were just not working out in their favor. So very close stuff from Fnatic, but I think that this time round, the draft advantage that G2 was able to find is ultimately what will allow them to win these later game fights and win out the game.
I mean, at the 12-minute mark, both teams had 4 kills. At the 26-minute mark, Fnatic had 6 kills in total, and G2 had 16 kills in total. After that early game, G2 just really took control of the game and were able to take the win from there. We'll see what Fnatic can do to change things up, Vedius, because the draft looked relatively good for them. It looked like a typical Fnatic draft.
I mean, I think the problems with Fnatic's draft was that their engage wasn't easy. They had no real backline threat, and unless they could catch members of G2 out of position, it was going to be difficult. And you could see multiple times Fnatic, I think, did the right thing. They had the right idea. A lot of their TP flanks, a lot of the opportunities that they went for was when G2 was in a 4-1 setup and someone on the side lane couldn't join, so they tried to use their numbers advantage to quickly try and catch G2 out. But you just saw time and time again how much time the Jarvan could buy, especially when combined with a Lulu as well. Stoneplate Jarvan, the protection, the exhaust as well, everything was just too much for Fnatic to actually get through, which meant that they could never find a successful fight.
Well, I totally agree with you there, Vedius. Coming up next, we're going to hear more from our analysts about how G2 took game 1 of that series, so don't you guys go anywhere.
Charged up. Hello, everybody. Let the game begin.
The time will come to be blessed, a harder way to celebrate his loneliness. Isn't each starlight a line, a line, a line, a line?
Fnatic are the kings of the West, and they will represent in the World Final.
I feel sad in the middle, got told it hurts a little.
Fnatic topple G2 and are your Spring Split champions.
Down that road I've been running all my life, now I'm sudden.
Only FLICKR is left alive to look as his team crumbles.
RNG are done! All 3 European teams make it to the knockout stage. Fnatic eliminate RNG! Let's see whether or not this will find out. PERKZ blows up RNG!
We're taking shape.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like, and it comes from Europe. A world record. G2 Esports 3-0 will win MSI 2019.
You and me are not so crazy.
Origin are crumbling to G2. Europe yields to its champion, G2 Esports.
They take it. G2 are your champions.
Taking shape. We're taking shape.
Wunder's in the pit with 3 members of Origin, but Wunder has already got the kill on Destiny. Upset, no flash. No way out of this as Caps jumps forward, and G2 have found the fight in the river that they were looking for.
You and me are not so crazy.
He's got the shot down, and now Destiny's getting chased off towards the bottom side. Xerxes opens up with a haymaker teleport coming in for the win as G2 looks like close this one out.
Chasing, we're chasing, we're taking shape.
Oh, the emote! I'm sorry, if you're tired of me getting excited about emotes, I get it. That's a double kill coming through for Selfmade. Gonna get one more over to a triple for the Gragas. He's gonna look for a little bit more, and that's going to be a quadra for the Gragas.
It has been a long, exciting, and interesting journey, but the day is finally upon us. Get ready, everybody. Rookies and veterans, villains and heroes. The LEC 2020 Spring Finals start right now.
We're taking shape.
Well, welcome back everyone to the LEC Spring Finals. That was our first game, and well, it was much quicker than I had anticipated after it being blow for blow in the early game. It was G2 who just pushed through the minute they got the advantage.
I feel like the key thing for me was just the draft that G2 had prepared for Fnatic. Fnatic as a team fight around the Drakes a lot, and they were in a position where they needed to force early game plays, and I think they knew this from the get-go, and that's why we saw some wonky dives, because they had that pressure on them, because they saw on the other side there's an Ornn, Lulu, Azir, Kog'Maw that is just waiting to eat up the game at a certain point in time.
Yeah, putting them on a timer, I do want to kind of take a closer look at the draft and talk about some of the stylistic decisions. So I felt like when reviewing the footage of G2 versus Fnatic, that G2 were constantly the more consistent and better team fighting team when these teams met. And the fact that in game 1 they drafted what I feel is just like a very strong team fighting composition is kind of like a gut check to Fnatic to say, okay, you're going to come at us. We're going to be super well prepared with so much zone control and ability to reset and to also then turn the hard engage. I think was just a really smart maneuver from G2 because every punch Fnatic threw, this composition was able to deal with it beautifully.
I felt like also the trash ban really put Fnatic in an awkward position because they were forced to pick the Tahm Kench. And I think when Fnatic played Tahm Kench in the regular season, it always felt like, okay, we are in a position where the only thing we can really do is hope the Rekkles carries because we don't have the tools to create the explosive fights that we really want to do. When you think of Hylissang, you think of the Rakan, you think of the Trash. With the Tahm Kench, she doesn't have that many options, and I think, with the Sylas lock-in, you put Sylas in a position where he needs to force fights almost completely alone, and there was very little to follow up, and this is not a characteristic Fnatic draft that we like to see, the one that really just runs at you with all of these engage tools, comes at you from every angle with TPs. This is not the draft that can do it the same way, the Fnatic way.
And I'm wondering then if the adaptation will have to be to move away from Aphelios and maybe go for the Misfortune, because it unlocks Hilly to look for the Rakan, to look for things like the Leona, as opposed to going for the Tahm Kench to keep Aphelios safe. I think a really big issue that Vedius already touched upon is the fact that they'll ban Kalista from blue side. They did it against Origin in their best of 5. They're doing it here against... Exactly, and it's kind of ringing alarm bells. And I know that we praise Rekkles for his ability to play everything, and I have no doubt that he can still do that, but for whatever reason, Fnatic don't seem to think that these are the champions that they want to go for, or maybe he can't play the Kalista.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot to say after one single game in the best of 5 because they haven't been pushed to that effect by any team in the playoffs so far. But on the other hand, it is quite impressive, I think, from the side of Caps that he just says, well, you know, yesterday pulling out the Vayne, now pulling out the Kog'Maw, pulling out the Misfortune also yesterday, just showing that he is capable of doing these different things. As said, the early game got dicey straight off the bat. There were a lot of early dives, and I think a lot of these minimal interactions went into G2's way, which gave them a fair bit of momentum.
Yeah, and it comes down to out-execution. It felt like the early game was still quite proactive in Fnatic's favor. It felt like it was Fnatic that were setting these up a lot. Jankos did a phenomenal job of constantly keeping track of Selfmade and being the right time. Like, watching Jankos during this game, he held his EQ for so long. The entire time that he was walking Wunder back to his tower, he didn't ever once flag forward because it's like they already suspected that the dive would come in and he would need the CC to disrupt them.
I am happy to see, though, that the Fnatic recognized the position they were in, right? We were talking about how much they're on a timer because their draft...
That they had to snowball?
They just have to snowball. They're trying to force something. This was some of the, maybe the top dive when they noticed that Ornn was low HP. Maybe this was some of the most, most exciting opportunities that they could receive this game. We saw even the last kind of fight into all of it that they tried to toss at you. It didn't really work out either. I don't think Fnatic... I think Fnatic will take a step back and realize that I just think this is a draft loss. Because in reality, if you need to be aggressive, you need to win the early game and you have Veigar, Tahm, Kench on your side, honestly, it's not going to happen. It's just too little tools to make that snowball happen. You want to wait at a certain point in time. Tahm Kench gets level 11. He wants to bait out the engage. Maybe use Tahm Kench ult on side. Veigar wants to get to that breaking point when he begins to one-shot people. Use that Glacial Augment to slow down people and catch people. But the enemy is very tough to catch. They're very mobile, a 4-1 composition. I think this was, plain and simple, a complete draft stomp.
Oof. And now my question is kind of like what to do about the blind pick Azir. We've seen blind pick Azir like really skyrocket, and the fact that it had such high priority for G2 here, usually you pick something that can outrange it, so there's always like a good option to go for it. And not that in the 1v1 Veigar can't deal with it, like he has some outplay around it, but it's just like it's so hard for Veigar to really step forward into these fights where Azir has so much safety. And this mid lane fight for me was kind of the GG moment. Azir had picked up a double kill, he gets a shutdown off the back of this, and it's like, well, I guess that's it for Fnatic. They need to snowball. Now they have a composition that's going to get actively outranged, and unless they get a massive flank potential, which you saw Fnatic going for, it was going to be a pretty clean choke out for G2.
Did it all come down to that Jankos stopwatch that wasn't taken into account? Because that changed the entire course of what could be a one fight and a lot of momentum for Fnatic.
We were watching the team fight. I saw Jankos that had stopwatch ready to go in his inventory. It was coming up to the Drake fight. I was like, that stopwatch is going to be the game changer. And what it allowed is it allowed him to zone and save Caps. Fnatic jumped onto Caps. Jankos was able to then hard engage, immediately goes into stopwatch and creates just this massive zone control for PERKZ and Caps to clean everything up.
And I just want to highlight as well PERKZ. Throughout playoffs, we had some moments of silliness. Maybe his Zillion wasn't as prepared as it could be. We saw some moments where maybe Nukta caught him in a, petrifying gaze. But now we saw him on the first game in the most important series of this, of course, Spring Split, and he performs. He did it super, super well. We saw that Jankos and PERKZ action also happening, even with an Azir. Usually people will pick Azir and it's like, oh, isolated, farm for late game, no problem. But they find the action, they kill Veigar, and Azir gets ahead, and he delivers.
Yeah, that they did, and a shell shock, I think, for the side of Fnatic. But Yamato, as you said it, there were draft mistakes, so maybe that means that they can just reset in the next one. They have blue side again, Fnatic, for the next game, so they try and come up with what they can take there for a first pick. Though, G2 has given us the first punch and has beaten Fnatic in this first game and struck first, but this is not the end yet. They still have to win 2 more, and Fnatic is lurking in the shadows to come back. We'll be back after this break.